Hello, cruel world. My name is Dr. Shaham Das. I'm a consultant forensic psychiatrist. I assess mentally disordered offenders for a living so that you don't have to. You can call me the ominous Shahaminous. Now, depression, the uninvited guest at the party of life. Depression comes in empty-handed, drinks all your best booze, farts in the kitchen, and then insults your other guest. Depression is extremely common, and as a psychiatrist, I think I've dealt with several hundred of cases of depression, all the way from fairly mild depression, which doesn't really affect the individual's functioning, all the way across the other end of the spectrum to people who I've met who very tragically have actually taken their own lives because of depression. So this episode you're watching, we will dispel 5 common myths about depression. I will give you a list of famous, successful people who have suffered from it. I will explain exactly how exercise helps depression and why it might not help depression. I'll give you some statistics, including how common depression is and how many people recover once they have this illness. Before we start all that, I'm going to ask you a question, my Psych for Sore guys. So clearly depression is one of the most common mental health problems in the UK, but can you estimate the percentage of adults in the UK that have experienced some form of moderate to severe depression? So I'm not just talking about the mild stuff, I mean the significant stuff. I'll tell you the answer to that, and I'll give you a few more stats later on in this episode. Okay, enough foreplay, let's get into it. Cue the intro. Myth number 1, depression is just sadness. Cheer up, love, it might never happen. Nobody has ever said that and not deserved a slap in the face with a trout. Feeling bummed after your goldfished fin tragically choked on a peanut? Totally normal, totally understandable. Sadness is a normal human emotion that's often triggered by a specific event or a situation. Feeling sad is completely natural if it's after a breakup, if it's after losing a loved one, if you're just been for a number 2 in a public toilet and you've just realised that there's no toilet paper, all totally natural. So sadness is usually temporary and it fades over time, maybe with some support, with some positive experience, and it doesn't significantly disrupt daily life. Whereas depression can be seen as basically an opposite of all of that. So it is a clinical mental health disorder characterized not just by persistent low mood, which is the obvious one, but other things like a loss of interest in previous activities or a loss of gaining pleasure in things that you used to enjoy. So, as Psych for Sore guys and girls, we psychiatrists, we like to sound cleverer than we actually are, so there's a special name for that, for a loss of enjoyment in a previous activity that you used to enjoy. What's it called? Answers later on in this episode. Let's see how clever you can sound. So depression can occur without a clear reason or a cause, or it could be triggered by an event. But what I'm saying is sadness usually comes for a reason. Depression can be completely unexpected, just like the Spanish Inquisition. And in terms of its persistence, according to some psychiatric diagnostic criteria, such as the DSM and the ICD, I'm sure you've heard those terms, it has to be there for most days and last for at least 2 weeks, and it has to significantly impact daily functioning. So again, these are things that differentiate sadness, not clinical, from depression, clinical. Okay, moving on, time for some stats. I know you love that, you little nerds. I asked you before to tell me an estimate of the number of rates of depression in adults in the UK. So studies have shown that around 16% in the UK have some form of moderate to severe depression. So that equates to about 1 in 6 adults. And research has shown that depression in the UK has increased since the COVID-19 pandemic. So a 2021 summer study by the Office of National Statistics, known as the UNS, found that 17% of adults reported experiencing some form of depression versus 10% pre-pandemic. Obviously, other recent factors like the cost of living crisis might also contribute to rising depression rates. While depression can affect any age, young adults seem to be particularly vulnerable. Studies suggest that a high percentage of employees aged between 16 and 24 experience symptoms of depression, and that's according to Champion Health's research. And they think that the statistics, the proportion in that age range can be as high as 61%. I mean, come on, that's pretty nuts, isn't it? That's 2 in 3 people. Gender differences. What do you think, Psych for Sore guys? What do you think? Men, women, equal? No, you're correct. Women are generally reported to be twice as likely as men to experience depression in the UK, according to championhealth.co.uk. But it gets complicated, doesn't it? Because just because they report it more often doesn't necessarily mean that men don't experience it more often but don't report it, if you know what I mean. I think it's fair to say that we'd all agree that men's mental health is a complex beast, but don't worry, I got you. I've made a video on 5 myths about men's mental health, how often they go to therapy, etc., what kind of illnesses they suffer from more than women to do with their mental health and why. All there in my video. Go chickadee, check it out. I'll put the links in the description. Always be plugging. Okay, moving on. Myth number 2 about depression is that depression only presents with psychological symptoms. Okay, so I already mentioned the main psychological symptoms earlier. So they are persistent low mood, probably the most obvious one, loss of interest or pleasure in activities that you once enjoyed, lack of kind of drive and motivation. But did you know that depression, clinical depression, also includes physical symptoms, also known as somatic symptoms? So what are they? Number 1 physical somatic symptom in depression is changes in appetite and weight. So depression can cause some people to lose their appetite, lose weight, whilst others, it might do the opposite. So they might actually crave sugary or fatty foods. They might go on sort of spirals of binge eating, particularly when they're feeling really, really low, to try and get that sugar into their body to just lift their mood up. And obviously that only lasts temporarily, then you come crashing down and the problem's even worse. You kind of know how it goes. So binge eat and weight gain, all of that together is called hyperphagia. So we like to sound cleverer than we are, as I said, psychiatrists, so that's the term you should remember, hyperphagia, eating more than usual. Just like that time you ate an entire Black Forest gâteau from the freezer, and when your mum found it, you blamed it on your budgie. Number 2 physical somatic symptom that you get in depression is sleep problems. So this can go both ways. You might have trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, nightmares, or you might sleep all the time more than usual, but you still feel tired. You don't wake up feeling refreshed. So the first thing is called insomnia. Everybody knows that. The other thing you might not know, oversleeping, is called hypersomnolence. So hyperphagia, hypersomnolence. I asked you before what the term was for previously enjoying activities and not enjoying them now, which is a key feature of depression, and it is, yes? Sorry, speak up. That's correct, anhedonia. Hyperphagia, hypersomnolence, anhedonia. I'm teaching you guys some stuff. I'm teaching you some fancy words so you can blag being a psychiatrist. Remember, I make these videos to educate you, also to take over the world. Have to admit, it's not going great. Number 3 somatic physical symptom of depression is exhaustion and fatigue, and this is a big one. So if you've suffered from depression, then I'm sure you can relate to this. You feel constantly tired, even when you've slept for a long time, and sometimes even simple tasks can feel like insurmountable and overwhelming. Number 4 somatic physical symptom of depression is loss of libido. So what I'm saying is depression can zap your interest in intimacy and physical affection. So you know the scenario, you've done your press-ups to pump up your chest before your lover arrives, you've eaten some oysters together, you've drunk some Prosecco, you've put Marvin Gaye on your stereo, you've even sprayed your special area with Lynx Africa, you've followed protocol, but you're still not in the mood. Why is that? It could be because of underlying mental health issues such as depression. Number 5, wow, it's a long list, isn't it? Number 5 of somatic physical symptoms of depression is digestive issues. So depression can cause lots of different issues with your digestive system, your tract. So it could lead to, for example, heartburn. It can lead to constipation. It can lead to diarrhea. Yeah. Number 6 on the list of somatic physical symptoms, and the last one, is aches and pains. So unexplained headaches, muscle aches, backaches, stomach aches, all of these are common complaints for people with depression. In fact, I'd even go further than that. I'd argue that in some cultures, like Indian cultures and African cultures, depression is more likely to present with physical pain than it is with the obvious overt psychological symptoms, simply because of the way the culture accepts or rejects acceptance of mental health issues, I guess. Okay, before we move on to myth number 3, I just want to say, I know this is a bit of a morbid topic. Hopefully it's helpful. Hopefully you're learning something, but I've got some other videos. For example, I'm not going to say the word, but it rhymes with suicide. Is that action selfish? What do you think? Contentious issue, but I've made some good points I'd like to think in my video. Go check it out. I've put the links in it. And also 5 myths about bipolar affective disorder, which is almost like the crazy cousin of depression. Again, I'll put the description in the links. Go chickadee check it out. Always be plugging. Okay, moving on. Myth number 3, only weak people get depression. Unlike your Uncle Jack after a couple of brandies, depression does not discriminate. It's affected many successful, powerful, and driven individuals. So I know what you're thinking, Dr. Das, put your money where your nose is. Give me some specific examples, and I shall. Number one successful person that suffered from depression openly, Elon Musk. So the tech entrepreneur and CEO of Tesla and SpaceX has discussed his experiences with depression. He's emphasized the importance of self-care and taking breaks. Dude's pretty clever, he's pretty rich, he's probably onto something. Number two successful person, celebrity with depression, is J.K. Rowling. The author of the Harry Potter series has spoken openly about her struggles with depression, particularly in her early 20s when she was a single mother facing financial difficulties. Number three celebrity that's suffered openly with depression is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Sorry about that. I think I can smell what The Rock is cooking. So this action movie star and former professional wrestler has shared his experience with depression, emphasizing the importance of seeking help and not suffering in silence. Number four renowned famous person who suffered from depression is Abraham Lincoln. So the 16th president of the US of A is thought to have experienced periods of depression throughout his life. Number five person, celebrity, successful individual who's openly suffered with depression is Lady Gaga, the singer, the songwriter, and the only person that I know who would wear a salmon as a hat. She has been vocal about her battles with depression and anxiety, advocating for mental health awareness. So obviously these are just a few examples. I'm sure you know many, many more. Let me know, my Schmike guys, of any important people that have inspired you, that are famous, that have come out about fighting with depression. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is important to understand that depression can affect anybody regardless of their achievements or backgrounds. Speaking of Schmike mentioned below, I would also like for you, my Schmike guys, to tell me about your experience of depression. How long did you have it for? How long did it last? What helped? What was the secret of either completely getting rid of it or at least keeping it at bay? Okay, moving on. Almost there. Come on, you can do it. Get you back into it. Number four, exercise always helps with depression. Before I get into that, I want to introduce you to this channel, A Schmike for Small Minds. I do a smorgasbord of videos related to mental illness or criminality, or the crossover between the two, because I assess mentally disordered offenders professionally. I give evidence to criminal trials, schmeck. Recently I've done videos on, 5 myths about bipolar affective disorder. I mentioned that before. 5 myths about mental health issues. I mentioned that before. 5 myths about cults, about kidnapping, all that good stuff. So I implore you to subscribe. Not only does it help me out immeasurably, but if you subscribe to my channel, you will never electrocute yourself in a toaster ever again. You know, when you try and pull the stuck burnt toast out with a knife like a moron, you won't get electrocuted, guaranteed, or your money back. Okay, moving back to myth number 4, that exercise always helps with depression. Obviously, exercise is a powerful tool for managing depression. I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm trying to make the point that you need to understand it's not a guaranteed cure-all, and it may not work for everybody in the same way. So what do I mean by that? What is the relationship between exercise and depression? How does exercise actually help? Let's break it down. So number one benefit of exercise for depression is the obvious one: improved mood. So physical activity releases endorphins, which have mood boosting effects. Number two way that exercise helps with depression is stress reduction. So exercise can help manage stress hormones, and it reduces the feeling of anxiety, often accompanying depression. It's almost like a distraction technique of feeling anxious and depressed. Number three way that exercise can help depression is increase your self-esteem. So regular exercise can lead to improvements in physical fitness, in body image, which in turn obviously can have a knock-on positive effect with self-esteem and self-worth. Number four way that exercise can help is it can improve sleep. So you can knock yourself out so much that you can promote a better sleeping pattern, which obviously is crucial for regulating your mood and overall well-being. Number five, I kind of alluded to this before, but number 5 way that depression can be helped with exercise is as a distraction. So focusing on physical activity can provide a temporary distraction from negative thoughts, from these negative intrusive ruminations. As the old saying goes, it's hard to focus on your ex dumping you because of your body odor problems when you're on your 4th set of deadlifts. So, am I contradicting myself? I just said that this is a myth about exercise, and I've just said how great exercise can be. I'm about to explain, if you hold your goddamn horses, how exercise might not be a magic bullet for everybody, and there's specific reasons. Number one reason why exercise might not help could be the severity of depression. So for mild to moderate depression, studies have shown that exercise can be a very effective tool. However, unfortunately, for severe depression, exercise alone might not be sufficient, so you might need to mix it with another treatment, like it might be medication or therapy. Number two reason that exercise might not help with depression is motivation. So as I said before, when somebody's struggling with depression, it affects their motivation, it affects their enjoyment of activities, anhedonia. And so starting a new exercise routine or even sticking to your old routine can be challenging. Number 3 reason why exercise might not help with depression is a quick fix versus a long-term strategy. So even though the short-term endorphins might come on quite quickly, the actual physical body image effects of exercise in depression or even without depression tend to be slow, and they tend to be cumulative, and they build over time. And some people don't get that instant mood boost, and some people are not able to stick to it long enough to see the physical effects. Personally, I love working out. I think it really helps me with my mental health. And these guns, they don't feed themselves. Sorry, that was a bit embarrassing, wasn't it? Number 5 myth. Depression means you cannot be happy. Okay, let's face it. As we know, what's that saying? Life is a marathon, not a Snickers. Wait, hang on, that's not right. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. In the same way, depression is a phase and it's not a life sentence. So there will be good days sprinkled amongst the bad. The good news is depression is definitely a very treatable condition, and many people experience significant improvement or even full recovery. And here are some statistics to prove what I'm talking about. So the National Institute of Mental Health, known as the NIMH, says that about 80% of adults with depression respond positively to treatment, with many even experiencing remission, which means a complete absence of symptoms rather than a reduction. The NHS Digital UK did a study in 2018, and according to its report, it found that in the UK, 49.3% of people, let's just call it half, let's not be pedantic, who completed a course of talking therapy like CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, recovered from depression after that. So all of that is really positive, but we also need to bear in mind that recovery rates can vary. So it's important to remember that these are general statistics. They don't necessarily help you as an individual. So individual recovery rates can depend on several factors, including the following. So factor number 1 of the recovery rates from depression is the severity of depression. So this kind of goes back to what I was saying a bit about exercise. So people with mild to moderate depression tend to have better recovery rates than those with severe depression. Number 2 factor about whether you recover from depression is treatment adherence. So what that means is sticking to the plan. So whether it's therapy, whether it's medication, whether it's a combination of both, whether it's going for walks, whether it's doing exercise, whether it's getting some like social support from your friends, you have to stick to it for optimal results. Number 3 reason that there are factors that some people recover compared to others is lifestyle factors. So the basic stuff that I've already been talking about, getting enough sleep, eating a healthy diet, not mentioned that yet, exercising regularly, all of these can contribute to a successful recovery. Number 4 reason or factor that some people recover and not others is availability of support. So having a strong social support, friends, family, racist uncles, therapists, all of this can significantly impact the recovery process. Whew, we're pretty much almost there. There you have it. Armed with knowledge and a healthy dose of self-compassion, that's right, you can tackle that depression dragon, or at least negotiate a truce. Remember, you are not alone. Health is not available. Okay, now it's time to finish. I'm going to go cry into my Cocoa Pops again. But before we finish, let's quickly summarize what we learnt today. Kids, depression does not discriminate as it affected many successful, powerful and driven individuals. Depression is a phase, not a life sentence. Your Uncle Jack is racist when he's been drinking. Depression is not just about psychological symptoms. There's also physical symptoms we call somatic symptoms, such as changes in appetite and in weight. You learnt the words hypersomnolence, hyperphagia, anhedonia. Depression can present with sleep problems, diarrhea, constipation, heartburn, exhaustion, all of that bad stuff. Okay, that's it for today. Let me know if there's any other specific mental health topics that you want me to debunk, you want me to give 5 myths or even more sometimes, and I will put them on my list. Have a blessed day, buy my goddamn book, and do not forget, whatever happens, I love you.